community event wants our quarter league, but Joel's gonna be at our house this week, that week already. He's like, I'm going on tour in September. You don't want to go show, you go show up and already meet your house. And it'll be kind of a precursor for him to get a little practice before he goes on the tour.
All right, folks, we are live. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I'm going to get Alderman Craig Strickland to lead us in prayer and the pledge.
Bow your heads. Lord, we are grateful that you brought us again together as leaders of this city to make the decisions that you've entrusted in our hands. We ask that you guide our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our deeds in this meeting for your glory and for your honor. I pray all these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief, would you have our person here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, just double checking. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Can I make a motion to?
I've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I would like to make.
Discussion?
If that's okay. Yeah, I'd like to amend it to add the, attendance policy for aldermen that I had, sent out a couple days ago.
I don't think we need to put that on there just yet. We haven't had time to study that. I'm gonna make the motion stand.
Stand. Okay, got a motion, got a second, all in favor? Okay, what was that, 4, how many we got? Let me get hands on it.
Nays?
All opposed?
Yeah.
Confused about the process here.
I was
We're just
trying
adopting
to
the
amend
amendment.
to add the,
As is, or with the, but the motion on the floor is to adopt the agenda as is. So who's all in favor of as is? 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed that wanted to add the changes?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, 3.
I mean, that's all.
Or at least discussion for.
Point of order. Per legislative guidance, Alderman may add agenda items during the neighborhood meeting.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
So even though it's not official agenda, you may add items during the meeting.
Yeah, I would, and I know,
And then it'll be actually on in the minutes.
Chief, I'm not picking
I
on
would hope
you.
so.
I'm not picking on Chief, but I do try to get our employees, just so y'all have time to review things, try to get things on Thursdays and Fridays. Usually Thursday, there is the occasion we have to do that, so I don't promise to always do that, but obviously I think this will probably be something that'll show up on a future agenda, and we can deal with it at that point. It shouldn't be an issue after everybody's had enough time to review it on the July 5th meeting, I assume. Anyway, moving to the next one, got a motion to accept the consent agendas numbers 1 through 4.
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. It's gonna be an easy one. Brian, where you at?
Right here.
Come on up here.
Not even people today.
You guys are doing it on July?
The 20th.
Okay, tell everybody what you're doing.
So Wednesday night, July the 20th, me and I'm with Turning Point Church and Jason Wade and Carterville and Corey and all. So we're all getting together trying to just do a community event. It's not going to be a charged event. I got a friend of mine that's a very family-friendly Christian comedian that's come in before in Petal, and we did it at the high school at that time. He's going to be in visiting with us, and so we were thinking about he's going to do a show for us that night from 7:30 to 8:30, and we were wanting it to be free of charge to all the youth in the community that wants to come. They can come with their church or by themselves, and just have a great fun night. School starting the next week. We're going to just, after our service that night from church, we're going to all come up there, and any other kids in the community that want to come are welcome to come. And I was just coming to see tonight. I called earlier and talked, and the Civic Center was open, and there was a $250 charge and then a deposit. And I was wondering if the city could help out with some of that charge, since we're not charging anything, or, put a deposit down to make sure that we clean it up like it is. And I'm a business owner in the city, and I promise you I'll take care of the building.
I think you got some cleaning supplies.
I got a few cleaning supplies, and I got a wife.
Yeah, got the skills.
Got his wife.
I don't have a
We,
problem.
yeah, we've done that in the past,
Yeah,
especially on a Wednesday, so it's not a weekend we're done.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Steve makes a motion, got a second to waive the fee for July 20th. We've already got that blocked off.
Already got it good.
All right. If anybody needs to get something done, get Brian to come up here. He'll get it just
Yeah.
right on. But anyway,
Thank y'all.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good job. Okay, we got proclamations and resolutions. Number 5, is there a motion to request to adopt proclamation declaring July 1 as a day of prayer in the city of Petal? Is there a motion? Move it.
Second.
Okay, is there, got a motion, got a second? All in favor? Okay. No bids and quotes. Number 6, old business is request to adjust garbage fees and late fees billed on 21 Maple Road. Rocky probably has some, I should put this one meeting.
Do we have any?
Do you have any? We don't, but he can probably tell you where we're at on it.
I think you all got a copy of the letter that I'm gonna mail tomorrow.
Yes.
And so my advice would be to deny this request and let this request be brought back once we've heard from the AG, with the understanding that the city wouldn't charge any more late fees or penalties regarding the time that's in question.
And this basically just so it stops popping up on our agenda.
I'll make a motion based on Rocky's recommendation, of what he just said.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed or abstentions?
Report back to fine.
You were on mine.
We're waiting on Melissa. Not my fault, we're waiting on
Move
Melissa.
on.
General business, number 7, request to dispose of a Canon D, 51 Water Department, Angel. Got a motion, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, request to give additional contract time and waive liquidated damages charges against Warren and Warren Asphalt. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. Motion.
Discussion.
Second, you can go ahead.
We're having them come back to, or we're gonna talk about them coming back to pave the upper area, which I believe will cost, what was it, a little over 25?
Change, yeah.
I'd say this, or 22, I believe, this would be about $15,000 forgiveness.
I think it was less, for some reason, I was thinking 7,500 on that.
Really?
I may be wrong.
Well,
Anyway, yeah, I get your point.
either which way, like, I mean, they did go over, now I understand the conversation of, like, we want to be friendly to the people that are working with us, but I would say it seems like we're paying for them to come back possibly, and then also giving them, well, forgiving the however much that they actually owe us for being late on the development of the previous. I'll say is
They're not gonna cut us a deal. I think that's where you were going.
yeah, like, they're not gonna do anything for
No,
us.
the only way you're gonna get your money back would be this route. That being said, and in talking with John, there's not a lot of folks that do that, and if they were to challenge it in court, his letter didn't say it, but if any of these, and any of those contract stuff, you mentioned the word COVID, I can assure you, whatever you're requesting is going away. It's just, they're just gonna give you forgiveness for it at the time, and then we would also kind of have a little, Rocky would have a little bit of a tough time saying that we've been damaged, we've been inconvenienced, yeah, but, and I think that's why John didn't come out and say, I think if John would have thought that there was a problem here, like, hey, he'd have, told me like, hey, I think they kind of screwed it up and y'all been damaged, here you go. So that's kind of why you're seeing it like that. I'm like you though.
I understood their reasoning
I get it,
for
yeah.
for starting late.
Yeah.
I understand that some of their head engineers' wives was sick, they were out for a whole lot.
Yeah.
They did start real late, so it's
Yeah.
it's no real surprise that they're over.
I'm surprised it wasn't more. To be honest with you. It's such a late
I was gonna say,
deal, but
if
anyway.
everybody's thinking that there's just nothing to do, and that's basically gonna be a wash, then that's fine. But
Yeah.
but
That's good. I think if John thought it was a landmine, he would have mentioned And he's hard on those guys. I've ridden around with him where he's pulled up, and that's can be somewhat of an ugly scene. Look at him, Josh knows he's seen it, where he goes out there and demands a lot of the people that work on it, on our behalf. So I always appreciate that.
I trusted him weeks, so,
And I spoke with him too, and there are definitely misgivings on this. Like I said, when you have a contract, you have a contract. And like I said, there's relationships in there. And so, yeah, I understand the issue about it wasn't properly annotated in his letter of relief. And there's some things that we do on our side, on the engineering services side for our city engineer. Like I said, a lot, lack of a change order to document that, but, like I said, there's, you know, as we look forward, you know, like I said, I've been on both sides of the fight on this issue for different contracts, especially for construction. So, what I do like is that at least, you know, we have to pull it down to is, you know, the damages and what we could sell for damages, and I'm not sure what Rocky is capable of doing for us in that, you know, we could show. But what this will tie to later, and we'll kind of tie in another item, whether we want to award them for their performance when they had lack of performance before. You know, and that's where I think, and I'm talking to John, we're in a pickle, because we're not gonna get anyone to come back for a small bite like that, you know? And so then we look at our citizens and say, well, how do we make sure they can use that facility between now and when we do the big contract and wait
Yeah, that was
a year
always
down?
an
So,
option too.
you know, there's a value, like, is it the right thing to do, or do we need to do it right now? So that's this time, and like that,
We have some good news on that, and it's number 14 that we will actually, we think we're gonna come in under
Yeah,
budget.
so
We've got some money that we can play with on that.
So-
So that's a good thing, and the goal is not, love you, state of Mississippi, but the goal is kind of not to give them any money back and make sure we use it all here, because that's what the original intent was from Larry Bird as well. We're very appreciative of Larry's work on our behalf on that.
So, but with the combination of sitting down and going through minutia detail with me on this, you know, I think, you know, we're probably in a less favorable position to say no. Even though I think the right thing to say is yes, you know, give us the money, we're fiduciarily responsible for our taxpayers. Like I said, sometimes you look down the road to the bigger fight. So,
Okay, got a motion, got a second, all in favor? Let me do one thing, if you guys don't mind. Have I bored y'all sufficiently yet? Chief's like waving in the back, and you said you were gonna let us go first. If we could, I'd like to, move number 17 up, and let's go ahead and handle that so I can do a swearing in. And, that is a motion to request to adopt the order hiring Jordan Marshall, full-time as a third-class firefighter at a rate of $12.1083 per hour effective June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Chief, where does it stand on y'all staff, y'all full?
We got two more positions. And we got another, well, there'll only be one more.
Okay.
The other one just ain't taking work. It's on first.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Wait a second, did you tell him this? No? Oh, no, not that. Good job, come on up. I like that. Greg, can say, give one of your cards, Greg. Come on up here. Get you to sit down right there. Repeat after me. I get a head advantage, I get to read it. So. All right, raise your right hand. I, Jordan Marshall,
I, Jordan Marshall,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully support
that I will faithfully support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Mississippi,
and the Constitution of the State of Mississippi,
and obey the laws thereof,
and obey the laws thereof,
that I am not disqualified from holding the office
that I am not disqualified from holding the office
of firefighter,
of firefighter,
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office upon which
of the office upon which
I am about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
There you go. That right there should be good. You did as good as anybody. Huh? Good job. Good deal, Chief. Appreciate that.
Tara, can you hear us?
That's okay, man. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
I would say that also, I'd like to do that in the middle from now on. We'll do them in the middle. That way, if some of you guys want to sneak out, y'all, that'll give you your opportunity. You feel captive in here of some sort. But anyway, all right, good deal. Number 9, motion, request to renew the advertisement in the Pedal Band Booster Program for 125. We got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, number 10, request to adjust water services billed to the following due to leaks. 112 Wilson Drive, 321 Garden Lane, 207 South George Street, and those amounts.
Motion,
Is there a second?
Second.
Melissa, this, I know it's one time, yes, good job.
All in favor?
Why do you ask that every time?
They've been told.
He's asked it
They
every
used to
time.
not,
for 11
actually,
years.
I'll add to this, they used to not have forgiveness.
Yeah.
13, 14 years ago, there was not, if you had a leak, just.
Yeah, we didn't adjust water, we adjusted sewer because it, when
And most
sewer
other
was metered,
municipalities don't.
we,
That's true.
we had to have a leak in the AG's opinion to start adjusting water.
All righty, Mike, you ready? Number 11, motion to request to accept J.H. Wright and Associate as a sole source provider for mission communications and authorize the purchase of mission communication equipment for plans A, B, and C in the amount of $20,875. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
What you got, Mike?
Basically, right now, we're using a T1 line to communicate between the water wells. That price for that AT&T line is, went skyrocketed, actually. It's over $3,000 a month. We are now putting in the mission systems in the lift stations. The lift stations, are using the mission system and working well with that. So we want to use that same system in water wells where we can use the same software to be able to see everything at one time. You're about $500 a year per station, which is 4, which is $2,000 a year for cellular use between those. So it's a lot cheaper.
The other
Right
guy,
out the gate.
the T1 line is what, $3,000 right now?
$3,000
Going
a
to
month.
like $6,000 or $7,000, isn't it?
Right. I don't know how much they said it's going up,
It's
but,
going to increase by 50%.
right. So right now, it would save, 1 month of paying for that to pay all year for the
In a
communication. for the
nutshell, I
same.
think AT&T is probably trying to get out of the T1 business, if I had to guess. I mean, that's a
Probably so.
strong rating.
So are we're not under any kind of contract with AT&T?
No, mission is what we've got, instead of going, and it's like anything else, you've got all other kind of systems. We've scouted them out, and mission's one we tested and like. We just want to try to stay with the same one, so we'd have the same software. They are the seller for this area, so all we're doing is accepting this so that we don't have to do the 2 or 3 quotes. Because you really, to get a quote on the mission system, you gotta go outside of their selling district to get it, because they are the ones that sells the mission in this area. We can always change later, at any system we want, but we try to use the mission, it's working well for us, and we want to continue going with that.
Cool. All right, got a motion, got a second. Any other questions? Got a motion, got a second. All in favor? Okay, number 12, request to accept engagement letter with Butler Snow for FY 2021 continuing disclosure statement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Melissa?
They do it every year.
Thank you. Okay, not for me.
Something we have to do for all those funds.
All right, I got a motion, got a second. All in favor? Okay, number 13, request to approve RFP and authorize the city clerk to advertise the proposal. Got a motion and a second.
Move so, man.
Okay. Discussion, go ahead.
I provided, sent an email out to everyone, but also provided documentation. I have 13, or I think 11 final recommended changes on this contract. And for historical, and Mayor, we may correct it in time, but we got a draft of the RFP from Georgia, from from a city that actually is utilizing the service of a provider that we're in communication with. So,
Correct.
so, which is good, because I mean, very rarely do you start from scratch from RFP. You usually get it from a provider. But the onus on us to really nick down and specify what's right for our city. And that's what I've done. We have different philosophies on how RFPs should be written, and that's why that's why I have this proposal for these 11 different things, which basically fall into stormwater inclusion, accountability, safety, and basically a length of service, a term. And so, what I like to do is go through each one through 13. Actually, I think it's 1 through, highlighted here, 1 through 13. And actually 4 is already moot. So, and again, this proposal, and I built upon one you initially started, Mayor. So I appreciate the initial hard work was basically I kind of pace.
It really wasn't on my side. We got that whole thing and started taking apart from it. So it's more, I mean, Rocky and John, especially John, has had more input on it than I did. Kind of following the process that we did when we actually did the RFP, like John and myself, which I think I actually did more work on that one when we privatized sanitation. But
yeah, and that's like I said, this is a lot more complex than a waste management or a trash garbage pickup because this is more complex and since it has more services and there's actually more regulatory guidance is required. So that's what when I look at those kind of 4 main efforts to include things that really help our city, put this in an RFP that puts the city in a driver's seat more than the contractor who's provided the draft to us. And so when we look at this, I like to go, that's all we're recommending these changes. So like number 1, I recommend we add the word stormwater in that paragraph. And I don't know, and I'm fine with arguing each one or not arguing each one. But I think but I think a lot of them are they're specific to our needs. And then when I talked to John, the same thing when you said John approved your RP1, he approves this just the same thing. But let's look it over again. Now there's confusion. I say not confusion. Like, well, what's the length of this contract? Because the contract we're proposing is for a 5-year, almost $6 million contract. And so we need to take our time to do this right, not haste to failure here. And like I said, the kind of quote used, Mayor, is like where the rubber meets the road is like, well, we need to make sure the road is what is right for pedal. So that's what these 11 things, and like I said, the accountability, the stormwater, these are based on my experience working not on public works, but contracts for the last 22 years with the military and state government here in Mississippi. So,
just to let everybody know what we're talking about, y'all have no idea, do y'all? Let me go ahead and tell you what we're talking about. We have probably for 9 or 10 months, and I believe as a municipal or as administrative and a board responsibility is we get a lot of ideas thrown our way. And I think we have a responsibility to look into it. Some of you look at them 5 minutes out and you're gone. Okay, that's just not our fit, but hey, maybe 5 years from now, it might be our fit. So anyway, this would be the privatization of our public works department in large. We have visited other towns that do this. The RFP part of it is basically getting interested parties to come and get us information on what they could do and if that could be a possibility. So even as we get to this point, there's 1,000 things that could kill it, and it'd be fine because if a resident came to me and said, well, why haven't y'all ever, well, we have looked into it, we didn't think it was a fit, or this could be a great thing for us. It is something that's a little harder to put your hands around, and it's a big thing. More people do privatize their sanitation than they do our public works as well. 1 plus 2 privatization is the same thing we've got with our sanitation is you get us out of PERS, and which is 17.4%. So that's always a risk of that coming up. It can be a budget buster, and healthcare insurance. Private sector entities tend to get it cheaper than we do for some reason. I don't know why, but it's been I mean, our healthcare since I've been in office has pretty much doubled over the last decade. And so when you go from, I'm trying to think of the number, if we go from 400,000 or 500,000 to $1 million, that's a big number for a city our size. And we're talking about a $7 to $10 million budget. All of a sudden, $500,000 is gone. That's a big thing. So I appreciate the board having looked at anything that comes our way of this nature. Because like I said, I think we need to be able to provide the public with an answer if we get into things. So with that being said, now everybody knows.
Yeah, I will say, the amendment, to this, proposal, the report amendment, and I know everyone knows what I'm about to say, but stormwater is a really big deal for me, and I can't approve the original one because it just doesn't go into depth. It does not specifically mention what it is we want, and how we're gonna fix our city when it comes to stormwater. And, this little thing, in my opinion, is a little masterpiece because it is so clear about what we want, from these offers. And wastewater, management is one of those things. Drinking water is one of those things. Street maintenance is one of those things. But in this one, it makes it very clear that the restoration and maintenance of our ditches and stormwater waterways are also one of those things, and that they are just as important.
I think there's some confusion on what an RFP is, what we're trying to get from them. If we get too specific, as I've said in some of our conversations, we get into a bid process as opposed to a proposal process. We want somebody to come in here and maybe there's a thing that we haven't thought of to give them the flexibility to say, hey, here's how we would do it. This is not me telling them I need 100 foot of sewer pipe. This is saying, hey, I need to replace some sewer pipe. How would you do it? That kind of thing. I think a lot of the concerns are handled in the contract portion of this. So I think we've added some words, but not really added any depth from that standpoint, and still can control that from the contract standpoint.
Well, it goes from merely stating and drainage, which is as deep as the other one got into, saying stormwater within ditches, pipes, drains, closed ditches within city limits, water management, stormwater maintenance. Goes on to talk about vegetation control and drainage improvements, and I could go on. And I think that if we're not asking for, if we don't tell them what we want, we're not going to get the feedback that we need.
I feel very comfortable with the original oversight from our attorney and our engineer from that standpoint.
If I can ask a question, just for clarification for the public's sake, you made the statement that we don't need to hastily rush into something. Am I correct in understanding that, this original document has been worked on between our attorney, our engineer for weeks?
Early May.
Yeah,
Okay. So it's not
June 1.
And Craig, I won't say that the original one is sufficient. It definitely hits, drinking water, streets, and sewage.
Well, that's fine. I was
But
just wanting to
it just leaves
clarify,
some things
because
out.
the statement kind of insinuated that this document showed up yesterday and we were hastily rushing into approving. That was, I just wanted to clear that.
Well, we received it on Wednesday, so now when it was getting received from Georgia, and I don't want to overpaint the involvement of our lawyer and legal team, but like I said.
I got it on June 1.
And so.
That's
June 1.
He sent it to me on June 1.
So I will say, and I appreciate him looking at for my corrections overnight, basically, to allow, but again, he's just looking for legalities to make sure it's legal, not whether it's the substance is what the city needs.
Yeah, and
That's where the engineer comes in.
And I look at his.
John is comfortable with this. So he's comfortable with it. The concerns you guys have can be addressed during the contract phase, and Lord help us when we get there.
Well,
Probably so. But, or them. There are one or two things, if we include stormwater, just say stormwater, and draw our attention to that, will that not change, or at least add to the vision that
It will not add
Clearwater would?
anything.
I disagree.
I strongly disagree.
We always disagree with our attorney and our engineers.
Now, let me
Anyway,
ask you
we've got a motion on the floor. Steve, do you want to make any changes to your motion?
I'm happy to listen to what Rocky and John said. I'm happy with mine.
With as it is?
If I could, before we continue, I just want to make sure, because we're about to vote on whether or not we go with this one, that clearly states that we are looking for this company to come in and fix the
Any
drainage problem in the city.
Not this
A
company.
company. And the other one merely says and drainage.
Is that the final contract?
We haven't signed a final contract yet. That's not a final contract.
I do
We
this too,
discussed
just
these
like
things
him,
that we
I did
want.
this too.
When we start.
I understand contracts, this is not a contract yet. Nothing in this is a contract.
It's non-binding.
You're trying to make it specific and binding, it is not until somebody signs a contract. Nobody's done that. We haven't even taken bids yet, Gerald. So you guys are way overdoing this thing, and our attorneys, our engineers, and everybody else is
So
looking
are
at
we
it, okay?
requesting bids? Is that what we're
No,
doing
no,
right
we're
now?
requesting proposals.
We're requesting a
We're
proposal
requesting
before
these
we do the
proposals.
bids.
So we're requesting proposals, and the original one has a good section on the sewage, has a good section on.
That's not a contract.
I
That's an
understand
RFP.
that, but I want the proposals that come in to specifically address these things.
We can add that in the contract. That's where it goes.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't, go with the second contract?
There is a reason. This first one's approved and y'all just dropped this on the board on Monday. Late Sunday, Monday, and we know we just got a revision right now.
And those revisions were approved
We're
by
killing
the city,
trees. We're killing trees up here.
approved by the city engineer and city clerk and Rocky.
With the caveat that it really didn't add any substance to what we already have out there.
Actually, it changed substantially. the budget.
Apparently too, but I've got a motion on
And
the
then I
floor.
also like to
I got a
add,
motion
the
and a
legal
second.
document,
Um,
because
All in
after
favor?
5 years,
all in favor, if we can get hands
it's a
raised.
legal document.
All opposed?
Opposed. It's a legal document. Rocky, I like his legal opinion, is that a legal document? For
It's a
5 year-
legal
For a
document.
5-year contract?
We all know you can't bind future boards, and that's been repeated throughout.
That RFP, not to belabor this, is to actually say they need to be prepared to enter into a 5-year contract. Not that we will do a 5-year contract. Usually you'll do a 3-1-1, or even you could do a 2-1-1-1, of that nature. So that's handled in the contract phase of this.
Every time I issued a city contract with City of Hattiesburg, City of Petal, City of Meridian, any of those, they were 5-year contracts, every one of them. But there were 5 1-year contracts. So
That's how we're doing here.
but this, even if it's a 5-year contract, you can't bind boards because boards are only elected every 2 to 4 years.
State law allows you to do 10. That's actually a change. It used to be 6. So everybody used to do 4 2s or 4 1 1s. But yeah, the next board come in on
understand.
anything, sanitation, whatever, cancel it. We could come in, we could have sworn in last year and cut off all the paving that was going on. And we have the freedom to do that part of it. Typically doesn't happen. We do inherit the sins of the past, as we often know. But anyway, number 14, request to accept change order to Robert E. Russell Sports Complex parking lot improvements to include tennis basketball court parking at a cost of $20,600.
Motion.
Motion second.
Oh, just a second. He's gonna make the motion.
I'm sorry.
I move that we accept the proposed changes necessary or incidental to the scope of the original contract, but the change is not undertaking outside the original scope of the construction contract. Is commercially reasonable and is not to circumvent the public purchasing statuses, and that any resulting increase is cost and is reasonable.
I'll second that.
Got a motion, got a second.
We confirm that's coming from what?
And I said earlier, I think we're going to end up having some money that we need to spend up there as well. And it is within the scope of the original work.
No, it's just important to me. These courts have been on my mind, so I want to understand what's happening.
That is your ward.
So, Blake, let me just tell you that that's the magic language the AG says that we should use
Okay,
and make a finding in our minutes if we want to approve a change order.
I got you.
So that you have to make that finding, so that's why he's got a very specific wording that he's now seconding, so.
Got a motion, got a second, all in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to, introduce a attendance policy for the Board of Aldermen.
We're gonna table it then.
Second.
Properly, how would you handle that?
Motion.
Add it during the middle of a meeting? I've already adopted the agenda. You never ran into this?
No, no.
Or I could,
Okay.
I mean, we can handle it now if y'all want to. I mean, that's
I
fine.
mean, he just wants to, he's just just making a motion to add it, so they can either vote to add it or vote not to add it.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second to add it as number,
I don't know what number.
14.5.
It doesn't really matter. I don't know what
14,
number.
14 and a half. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor of adding Gerald's attendance.
Bruce seconded,
And this
right?
is, this
Is
is.
that an ordinance or policy?
It would be an ordinance, that would, well, those words are actually interchangeable at times.
An ordinance?
Yes. It would be an ordinance, it's introducing it would be for the Board of Aldermen attendance. Of course, the board can always make exceptions, in any situation. But basically, if you miss 7 days in a year's time, you don't get paid anymore for the days you miss. And so that is, our annual salary of alderman divided into 1/24 that you would lose per meeting. Of course, this isn't a problem for anyone at the board. I'm looking into the future. I want to make sure that future boards, we have aldermen in these seats. And when people show up and want to see their alderman, there's somebody here. And if that's not the case, there should be accountability.
This is motion to adopt.
What'd you say? Yeah.
No, this is a motion to add it to the
This is a
agenda.
motion to
Okay, we
add.
got a motion to add an agenda. We probably just broke some procedural move. I'm not sure what, but here we go. Got a motion, got a second. By show of hands, who's in favor of this?
To add it to the,
To add,
To add
not
to the
to,
agenda.
not to approve it or anything like that.
I discuss it.
Okay, all opposed to adding it on there?
Ain't really been a problem.
All right.
I'll just say yes.
Seminars and travel, number 15.
Let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Is there a motion, a request for Josh Young to attend MML convention in Public Cities?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 16, request to reimburse the following travel, meals, and expenses to attend the State Fire Academy. What?
it's to go take their test on that online class.
It don't say rebate money on here,
Right? Is that what
chief.
it's
This will
for?
be a one day.
That's right. For Amanda Richardson, Casey Burge, Kate McMullen, and Cooper Hughes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, that does it for us. I don't have anything in the mayor's report because we need to see the need for an executive session.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Before we get out of here, we told Valerie that we would try to help with the hot dog and all for
Oh,
Thursday
yeah,
night.
Thursday, what time, 5?
5 to 7
And we need 200 and how many hot dogs?
in buns.
200, about 200. So I'm gonna give my part of it if everybody else can. I'll see if we can help it again.
Who's cooking?
We're gonna,
I can tell, I got a doctor's appointment at 3:30, but I should be back.
let's turn YouTube off and then we'll make our commitments.
Okay.
All righty, folks, clear the room. We're gonna see if we need an executive session, which we do, so.
Steve, you need, Valerie needs to cook or do you keep purchase?
I thought, yeah.
Both.
Thursday,